Hey guys, it's Emily. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a video on goals for 2021 and also reflecting on goals I had for 2020. I know it's like halfway through the month at this point, but like you can make goals whenever. It doesn't have to be like January 1st. I'm making my goals now. I'm doing them now. I do find it helpful to make mine at the beginning of the year and to see that progress, and a lot of mine I did follow through with. So this is just something that works for me, but maybe you're the type of person who makes goals later or just makes goals intermittently throughout the year or just whenever. It doesn't really matter. I don't like to call them resolutions. I want them to be goals, just things that I'm working towards. Resolutions just sounds too much like starting over, and I'm not starting over. A lot of this is just like, honestly, continuations of things that I have been doing, goals that I had last year that I'm going to keep this year, or things that I started doing towards the end of last year that I want to work more on. So let's just go ahead and get started. Let's look at my goals I had for 2020 and whether or not I was successful on those. So I've got my little journal planner thing here. Did a little journal at the beginning of 2020, writing down all my goals and kind of just thinking about them and how maybe I wanted to complete them. Yesterday I did another little journal where I just wrote down all those goals again and then just kind of did a journal on, where that went, how it went. And I think that's just useful. It's if you are like setting specific goals and you want to see where you are, to just kind of like write them down and then write down, how you're doing with them. And that is something I did throughout the year. It helps you continually reflect on the situation of a goal that you have set, I guess. So my first goal for 2020 was to run a half marathon. So I did not do that. And there were some so I didn't want to run a race necessarily. I didn't want to sign up for a race and run a race because that would have been hard to do during COVID anyway. So I would have failed regardless. But I just wanted to run the 13.1 miles that it was, just go out and run that. But this goal, I kept thinking this goal was run a marathon. I thought I wanted to run the 26.2. So every time I would go to reflect on this goal, I would be like, oh. And at mid-year, I had that realization and forgot. And then when I did this yesterday, I was like, thought it was a marathon. The reason that I didn't end up completing this goal is because I moved to a state with a lot higher elevation. So I moved from Illinois to Colorado. And in doing that, it really pushed me back in my running. Because I had gotten to the point where I was really strong at doing a 5 or 6 mile. And then I come here and I can't run 2 miles without dying. So I have adjusted at this point, but I also have just grown to love trail running a lot more. So I think with what I had in mind with this goal was really, it was a road running goal for me. And my idea was that I would just go out on relatively flat land, sidewalks, that kind of thing, and just go run 13 miles like you would if you ran a race. But since I've gotten more into trail running, and trail running is definitely harder because you have to deal with the terrain, there's a lot more elevation change and things like that. Obviously, you could go out and do 13 miles on the trail, for sure. But I think what I would like to focus more on in this context is just becoming a stronger trail runner as opposed to upping my mileage. But anyway, let's move on to my second goal for 2020. And for 2020, I felt the need to have 10 goals. I wanted this very round number for some reason. I don't know why, but they were all goals that were important to me. I don't know. So I wanted to climb a V3. So back at the beginning of 2020, I had started to climb about 6 months prior to that. And I wasn't going to the gym as regularly as I would have liked because it was pretty far away from where I lived at that time. And it was expensive and I just didn't have a lot of time because I was working all the time. But in 2020, I wanted to just make more time to go to the gym, put my expenses toward that, get to climbing a V3, because I could climb a V1. I could do that. V2s were in the works. I could maybe, possibly, start a V2 at that time. So I figured by the end of 2020, I would climb a V3. I did not do that. Since March, I have been to a climbing gym twice, just 2 times. And even that's probably too much considering the pandemic. And I also have never climbed outside, so I just don't really have the skills or the equipment to necessarily do that. Before March, I was going to the gym regularly, probably at least like 3 times a month, I would say. I'm not the strongest climber for sure. It's hard for me. I don't have the greatest upper body strength. But I really wanted to make that small goal in 2020, and then not being able to go to the gym, there was just really no way for me to do that because I wasn't climbing outside. So that was a failure. And it's not something I'm going to pick up in 2021 because we're still in the pandemic. I still can't go to gyms. I would like to start climbing outside, but there's no guarantee I'm going to do that, and it's not necessarily something I need to focus on right now, I guess. It doesn't feel like a pertinent goal for me at this point. If the gyms were to reopen, if I was learning how to climb outside and it was something I was doing more regularly, then I might be setting goals towards it, but I think it's something I'm going to pass on for 2021. All right. The next one is to hike a mountain, canyon, or long trail. I did most of these things. That was a success, and it is something I plan to carry on to 2021 because it's a goal you can repeat. And I don't know, maybe it's not necessary if you already know you're going to do it, but if you like having a list and crossing things off like I do and knowing that you've achieved these things that really matter to you, it is nice to have the goal. But anyway, for 2020, my big goal with this was that I wanted to hike the Grand Canyon. And there was a big likelihood that wasn't going to happen even without COVID. Once COVID happened, I just kind of gave up on that. Instead, I ended up hiking the River to River Trail, not all of it, only 40 miles. And then I did 2 14ers when I moved here to Colorado. And these are just the major hikes. And that's really what I intended with this goal, is that I wanted to do big, important hikes for me. Really with this goal, I would like to expand it in the future, maybe do an entire long trail, do more 14ers, actually do the Grand Canyon, that kind of thing. So that's basically what this goal is. And like I said, I'm carrying this into 2021. I'm changing the wording a little bit to, remind myself that this is big hikes. It's all relative, I guess, when it comes to hiking and where you are with the outdoors. I don't know, but that's just what it means to me and what I am planning to do and what I did. All right, next goal. Visit a new national park. I did do this. When I first was thinking about it, I was like, oh man, I didn't get to visit any because of COVID. Bummer, that sucks. That would have been an easy one to cross off. But then I realized I went to the Great Sand Dunes. I keep wanting to call it White Sands. So I did get to go to one. And that one is near me in Colorado. It's one of the closest ones to me. It's a 2.5 hour drive or something like that. And I would have kicked myself probably if I hadn't done at least one. So yeah, this is another one I'm carrying into 2021. Hopefully things will change so that I can maybe do 2 this year or 3. Okay, next goal. I'm gonna let you know I failed. And I knew I would fail when I made it, so I don't know why I worded it like this. Write every day. I wrote less than a third of the days. I only wrote 105 days last year out of 365. And I think the issue with this goal was that I knew I wouldn't write every day, but I felt weird about just making the goal right. That felt too vague. I know when it comes to goals, you're supposed to make them specific, because if they're too vague, you won't do them. But I found that if they're too specific, I also don't do them. I find them too demanding and would prefer that they are stripped back a little bit. I don't know. I need a happy medium between too vague and too specific, I guess. Writing every day is something I knew I wouldn't do, but the goal was to write more days than I didn't. So I guess I should have made that the goal. And that's what I'm going to do for 2021. But I still didn't meet that either. Some months I literally didn't write or only wrote one day. I was counting journaling too. So I definitely didn't succeed in this goal, but I made a lot of improvement in 2020 when it comes to my writing. In November and December, I kept track of my writing, and I did NaNoWriMo. And I found with NaNoWriMo that I could not write 50,000 words in a month. I think I reached almost 15,000. But I found that, like, for writing, marking every day online, like on a little calendar thing, worked for me. But for some reason, I couldn't do it in here. The goal within the goal was to make a check mark for every day that I wrote. And for some reason, I found it difficult to open this up and make that check mark. But yeah, so I found a way that has made that more effective for me. If I'm getting online, logging a word count, which really only works if I'm like working on a specific project. If I do anything outside of that project that's writing and I don't happen to work on that project that day, I don't know how to tally that, but I haven't run into that problem yet because I've mostly been focusing on this project. Anyway, next goal. Oh, now we get into the ones. Oh, no. One more that I really succeeded at. Become a vegetarian. I did that. Once I moved, no more meat for me. I am now a vegetarian. I have been since June. So I did that one. Pretty simple. Can't really repeat it. Okay, next goal. Do 70 push-ups a week. I did not do this. This was another one where I was like logging it. Yeah, you can see, 20 push-ups, 15 push-ups, however many push-ups. I don't really like doing push-ups, but I want to be better at them. And I want to have better upper body strength. But I couldn't do 10 push-ups a day. It doesn't seem hard, but I didn't do it. So I guess it was. I think when it comes to like building upper body strength, it has to be an activity that I enjoy more, like climbing. So once I'm able to get back into climbing, I'll be great at my upper body strength. But until then, we're gonna leave the push-ups behind. I really do want to be better at them, but the fact that I couldn't even do this in 2020 just shows me that I'm not gonna do it. Next goal. Yes, another one that I failed at. Get another tattoo. I knew when I set this goal that I didn't really have the money to do this, but I wanted to, set aside the money, and I never did. And then when the pandemic happened, most tattoo shops were closed, and even if they're open now, I still feel weird about doing it. I haven't gotten a tattoo in like 3 or 4 years. That's so long. I really want to get one, but waiting until the pandemic's over, waiting until I'm financially stable, because at this point, I am less financially stable than I was at the beginning of 2020. Yeah, it is a bit of a bummer. I really wish I was able to get one, but yeah. Next goal. Do at least one monthly art project. See, this goal, I didn't necessarily succeed with the terms of the goal, but I did do a lot of like art. It's something that's I find hard to gauge, I guess. And the other thing was I was doing that thing where I was like writing down, here's something I created on this day in this month, and that's good. We met the goal. I think it's more, for me, it's more about doing an art project that I want to do when the mood strikes me, I guess. And the only issue with that is that, I would like to draw more or paint more, and I may not focus on that as much without the goal set. But, I wasn't even thinking about this goal whenever I made ornaments for my boyfriend for Christmas. And, I didn't even consider that goal. I just liked doing the art project. So the way that this goal worked, I think it kind of forced me to do art. And I don't want to be forced to do art. I just want to fall into doing art. Does that make sense? So I think for 2021, I'm not going to necessarily set an art specific goal. Maybe that's a bad idea. Maybe I should set one. But I think there are a lot of things that are going to encourage me to do art. I was doing it in my own way, in my own time throughout 2020. We are on to the final goal for 2020. Prepare one meal from scratch each week. From scratch. This just basically meant to cook or bake something, that you haven't ever really made before and, is new to you, but also doesn't come from a box. Something you're gathering ingredients together. I guess I didn't even put new meal. For some reason this whole time, I've been in my head thinking, I must create a new meal. And no, that was not even the goal. Even on reflecting upon this, I still thought that. I didn't realize until just now that it could have been something I've already made before. The plan was to just, make, even if I just made chocolate chip cookies from scratch, that's fine. If I made a soup, if I made a pasta, but I gathered the ingredients to make the sauce for the pasta. I just wanted to get more into cooking. It didn't have to be necessarily healthy meals, just fun stuff that I'm making on my own. And this was another one where I was writing it down. Basically what I was doing was just kind of writing down, okay, I made this meal from scratch, but that doesn't really tell me what the recipe was or anything like that. And I was forgetting to save these recipes, which is a problem because I liked many of them. I didn't like having to just go and write down, oh, I checked this box for this week. I guess in some sense I like checking boxes. In some sense I don't. I kind of failed, but I also kind of didn't. I didn't write down, at the beginning of the year, I don't think I was doing it every week, and I don't think I'm still doing it every week, but I am cooking and baking a lot. So in a way the goal did succeed. It just in the confines of this goal, it didn't. I was never really focusing on making one meal a week. I was just trying to cook more. In that sense, the more vague sentiment would have worked better for me. I don't know. So I'm not going to continue that goal, but I do, like I said, I was just finding things on Pinterest or just Googling a recipe on all recipes or whatever and having that come up, and then I would close out the window and it's gone forever. For 2021, I want to fill one of these with all the recipes I'm using. I'm always using my phone to make these recipes, and it would be nice to just have this, or maybe I could make I could write it all down on little flashcards and just pull them out of a thing, an old style recipe situation. That's what I want. And by the end of the year, we're gonna have a nice journal or a little box full of cards that all have recipes. That's the plan. So that was all of the goals for 2020. Done reflecting on those. So now, goals for 2021. And some of these I've already talked about, so I'm just going to run through those again. Become a stronger trail runner. Do big hikes. That's how I reworded it. Do big hikes. And then in parentheses, mountains, canyons, long trails, etc. Whatever. Oh, and then I do have a sub-goal to that before I get into just the rest of the goals I already talked about and other new goals. As you may know, on this channel, I do my travel journal videos. I tend to get behind on those in the sense that not only do I not make the videos in a timely manner, I don't even journal about the hikes in a timely manner. So the goal for this year is to, not just my big hikes, but all of my hikes, to journal about them in a timely manner. Because I still have hikes that I filmed from October that I have not written about. Anyway, let's get back to goals that I had for 2020 that are continuing into 2021. Visit a new national park. That one's exactly the same. I just want to do that again. Maybe visit more, but, pandemic pending. Create a personal recipe book, like I said, of all the meals and treats you try making and enjoy so that you have them forever. So you're not just cooking all these nice things and then leaving them in the past. And then also write on more days than you don't. I think that'll work better for me. And then there's a sub-goal within that one, and that is to finish my first full-length work. I'm already on track to do that. Originally, I wanted to get my current project done by spring. With the way things are going, with the way that I write, it may be pushed back till summer, but I definitely am going to get it done this year. I've done more than 50% of the writing, and then, editing is to come. There's going to be lots of edits, so that's why I'm kind of thinking maybe summer is more reasonable. But yeah, I think that's a really good sub-writing goal. It is something I was already planned to just be doing, but I want to have that in mind, I guess. I don't know, maybe it didn't need to be a goal, but I wanted it to be a goal. So a full new goal that I have for 2021 is to create more YouTube content and to create more varied YouTube content. I did a decent job, I think, last year with starting my YouTube channel of, it's not just hiking videos, I'm also doing decor. But I think when I started my channel, I was thinking of it as a hiking channel. And then I realized it's really not what it is, because I'm not someone who wants to do like gear videos or anything like that. And then I realized it's more of a writing channel, writing and lifestyle. So I think some things I'm thinking about for this year are maybe like writing vlogs. I mean, this really is a writing video because I'm telling you about this journal that I did. This is basically a journal video. This is a writing channel. But I also don't think I was posting as much as I wanted to in 2020. I had really high goals and did not meet those. Yeah, I want to get more on track, be more consistent with it, make different kinds of content. I don't want to get bogged down in the trail journal videos. As much as I like them, I want to do more just like chill content like this, or just, talking to you about other kinds of writing that I'm doing aside from my trail journal, like my projects that I'm working on. I think I might get into some booktube content because that really relates to like writing. As a writer, you're a reader. They just kind of hand in hand. And then maybe just some other lifestyle content. Like maybe I will do some cooking content because like I said, I've really gotten into cooking. And then I did have a sub goal within my YouTube goal there. I also want to get back into research and analysis. So maybe some content like that. And that's a lot of what I was doing in college with my degree. I was an English literature major, so I had to do like a whole research paper, and then even with film. So that is something I miss and something I would love to get back into. The only issue is I don't know that it would really blend. I mean, it is writing, but I don't know if it blends as well with all of my other content. So maybe a second channel. I think that might be in my future. I don't know how soon it'll be when I get to this. I already have a couple of ideas that I'm like really interested in, but that kind of thing, it does take a lot of time. And I'm okay with time management, but I'm also just like, if I have too many things to do, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a few hours. And I try not to give myself too many projects at once because then it's just chaotic and I can't do any of them. I just have to figure out how I'm gonna like juggle. If I want to create a second channel with this different type of content, then, am I still going to be able to maintain this channel? And then, all right, so we have one more goal that I almost forgot. I had to write it down this morning because I totally forgot to write it down. But my last goal for 2021, read 75 books. I normally don't set like a specific number goal for book reading, but in 2020, as soon as the pandemic started, I started getting into audiobooks. I started reading a lot more. And I ended up reading 59 books. And that is huge for me. Since I've been in college, I have not been as good of a reader. Being an English major and reading all these books for class, you kind of lose that love for like personal reading during that time. And it was a little bit hard to get back into, especially like right after college. I went into a bunch of service industry jobs that I was working at the same time and basically working every day. And I was like, I don't want to read. I just want to watch TV. I decided I wanted to make a spreadsheet and not just I use Storygraph instead of Goodreads because Goodreads is on my Amazon. So I switched over to Storygraph. Anyway, that's what I use. But I wanted something that was more specific in keeping track of my reading. I really enjoy Storygraph for being okay, this is saving books that I want to read, because I don't personally buy a lot of physical books. So it is nice to have a list of books saved, oh, I forgot that I heard about that book and wanted to read it. But I'm creating my own spreadsheet of to track what I have read and to keep personal stats, oh, this is the first time I read this, or this was a reread, or do I want to own this book? I retroactively did a spreadsheet for 2020. That's how I knew I read 59 books. And for this year, because I've been reading so much more and I'm keeping such good track, I think I could do 75. And listening to audiobooks is reading. Point blank. Get out of my face. Yeah, so that's something I'm really excited to do. I've been so excited to read. But anyway, thank you guys so much for going over all these goals with me, doing some reflecting and some planning. Maybe it inspired you, or maybe you've already planned all your own goals for this year. If you have, I'd love to hear about them. Leave them down below. And yeah, I'm really excited to, put some of these goals in action, create more content, share more of my writing with you this year. It's going to be great, So, yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not, and I'll see you next time.